Hey, what's up, guys? It's Andrew Santowski. I'm back with another UFC prediction video. This time, UFC 310 Pantoja versus Asakura. This event goes down in a few weeks. It goes down Saturday, December 7th, 2024. Prelims begin at 6. It's the last pay-per-view of the year. It's going down from Las Vegas, Nevada. So let's get into it, guys. Pretty good card. First fight up, Vicente Luque against Gorimbo. Gorimbo stepping up on short notice. Doesn't seem like we've seen Luque fight in a while. He's coming off a loss. I want to say that was to Joaquin Buckley. And it was back in March. Gorimbo, I don't think he's lost in the UFC. I'm going to side with Gorimbo here to pick up the win. Rizvan Kuniev against Martin Buday. I'm going to side with Kuniev here, man. I just haven't been impressed with Buday. Kuniev, 19-fight win streak. He's 13-2 overall. He's coming off a win on the Contender Series. I'm going to side with him. I'm not really impressed with Buday, so I'm going to side with Kuniev. Randy Brown against Brian Battle. Two surging prospects in the welterweight division. Kind of hate to see them paired off against each other, but I'm going to side with Brian Battle here. I just think he's got the better chin, the more punching power, probably a little more well-rounded, and I'm going to side with Brian Battle here to pick up the win. Teixeira against Lucas Boreski. Boreski, he's on a one-fight losing streak, lost to Mick Parkin. He did have a nice, impressive win over Walter Walker in his UFC debut before that, but, I mean, he's 1-4 in his last 5 UFC fights, and he's going up against a guy making his debut in Teixeira, who was probably on the Contender Series. 7 wins, 7-0, 24-0, or 24 years old. Beat Arthur Lopez straight right. I'm siding with the newcomer here in Teixeira to pick up the win. Cody Durden against Joshua Van. Two good flyweights here. I'm going to side with Van here. I just think he's got a little more upside. Durden's probably going to want to get takedowns. I don't know if he's going to want to stay standing with Van. But I'm going to side with Joshua Van here to pick up the win. Movsar Evloev against Aljamain Sterling. Very interesting fight. I'm going to side with Movsar Evloev to pick up the win here, man. This guy, he hasn't lost in the UFC. Hasn't fought often. Hasn't fought since early January or mid-January when he beat Arnold Allen. But he's undefeated. And Aljamain Sterling, former bantamweight champion, beat Calvin Kattar in his UFC featherweight debut. So let's see how he looks at featherweight here against Evloev. Michael Chiesa against Max Griffin. I'm just not really sold on Chiesa here, man. I think Max Griffin's probably the better fighter. Chiesa, you know, he was able to get a submission win over Tony Ferguson, but that doesn't tell me a whole lot. Max Griffin, I just think he's a little more well-rounded than the current form of Michael Chiesa, so I'm going to side with Max Griffin. Clay Guida against Chase Hooper. I like Chase Hooper here. We know Clay Guida. He's been subbed many times. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. Chase Hooper has filled out his frame a little more. He's fighting at 155. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. Beat Vlaushev, Borishev. Beat Jordan Levitt. Beat Nick Fiore. I'm going to side with Chase Hooper here. Anthony Smith against Dominic Reyes. Again, is Dominic Reyes back? He's coming off a knockout win over Dustin Jacoby. Smith, he's coming off a real disappointing loss to Roman Dolidze, and that was an embarrassing loss to have, man. Dolidze stepped up to light heavyweight and beat Smith. And I'm going to side with Dominic Reyes here, man, to pick up the win. Bryce Mitchell against Kron Gracie. I mean, this seems like a perfect spot for Bryce Mitchell to get back in the win column. Thought Dana White was going to give Kron Gracie another fight after he lost to Jourdain. But I'm going to side with Bryce Mitchell here to pick up the win. Nate Landwehr against Stu Ho Choi. I think Nate Landwehr is probably the more well-rounded fighter. Probably the one with more gas in the tank. I'm going to side with Nate Landwehr here to pick up the win. Cyril Gane against Alexander Volkov. I'm going to side with Volkov here. He's just been more active. Gane, I think he was filming a movie. Volkov, very nice win over Sergey Pavlovich, man. I think Volkov has a really tough frame to deal with at heavyweight. He's really filled out. He's got a lot of length. These guys have fought before, won before, but I'm going to side with Volkov here to pick up the win. Shavkat Rakhmonov against Io Machado Gary. 5-round co-main event fight. No belt on the line. I'm going to side with Shavkat here, man. I just think he's the more well-rounded fighter, more dangerous fighter. Machado Gary, he's very lucky that he got a win over MVP. I do think Gary probably edged that final round and deserved the win, but still MVP dropped him. MVP was just way quicker on the feet. I'm going to side with Shavkat Rakhmonov here, but, man, he has looked gas at the end of a 3-round fight before, so let's take that in mind here. But I just think Shavkat is going to do the more damaging stuff in the fight with Machado Gary here, so I'm going to side with Shavkat. Alexander Pantoja against Kai Asakura, and I'm going to go with the newcomer Asakura here, man. I don't think he's fought at flyweight before, but the UFC's telling you a lot, man. They don't normally let guys making their UFC debut fight for a belt. I think that says a couple things. One, they think that he can do it. Two, that they really want a Japanese champion. And Pantoja, he was a guy I never really thought was going to be champion, man. He had a few losses on his flyweight record. I remember he lost that, Askarov, lost to Davison Figueiredo, lost to Dustin Ortiz. I mean, this guy, he's fought hard to get the belt, and he deserves it. Beat Steve Erceg, who I had a bet on back in May. You look at him here, Pantoja's currently a minus 235, plus 200 on Asakura. There's value on the underdog here, man, I think. So I'm going to side with Asakura. So, guys, my picks: Asakura, Rakhmonov, Volkov, Landwehr, Mitchell, Reyes, Hooper, Griffin, Evloev, Van, Teixeira, Battle, Kuniev, and Gorimbo.